you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hello and welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. I am Teresa Velardi and I'm here with two awesome people, Mark O'Brien and Tammy Hayter. But before we get started, a little housekeeping. Want to let you know that Conversations That Make a Difference airs every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. with live call-in video shows on the first and third Tuesday of the month. You can listen live on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 radio network, online, on your mobile apps, in the cars, on YouTube, and by asking Alexa to play Dreamvisions 7 radio network. And you can go to dreamvisions7radio.com to watch the shows. We usually start with a prayer, so let's open with that because I really want to get going with this conversation. So let's start with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it is by God's grace that we are fabulous, blessed, and highly favored, living in our greatness, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others, with passion and purpose, and all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. And together we gratefully say, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So let me tell you a little bit about these two lovely people sitting with me here for this hour of conversation. Tammy Hayter, Hader, possesses no official academic writing pedigree. With a BBA in accounting from Wichita State University, her history resides in numbers. After a 30-year accounting career, Tammy reinvented herself as a writer in 2018. She's an essay writer at Medium, BizCatalyst 360, and WebMD. Tammy is an editor for the Medium publication Journal of Journeys and a contributing author to the Daily Gift book series. When not writing, she enjoys caring for her mom, cooking for her family, and serving her two rescue kittens with the royal attention that they deserve. Oh, and don't they always? Those cats absolutely love that. Her book, Walking Old Roads, a memoir of kindness rediscovered, is now available on Amazon. And you can see that lovely book right there. Congratulations on your book, Tammy. And on the other side of the conversation, you're welcome. On the other side over here, we have Mark O'Brien. Mark Nelson O'Brien is the principal of O'Brien Communications Group, o'briencg.com, a B2B brand management and marketing firm he founded in 2004. He also is the co-founder and president of EinSource, it's EINSOURCE.com, and he's a lifelong writer. You can see all of his published works, including his latest book, Random Thoughts, on Amazon. And here is Mark's Random Thoughts book. Congratulations to both of you on your books. They are awesome. What I love about these two people is they can tell stories. These books are compilations of their own stories, little stories about things that have happened in their lives that have, I've read both of these books, and anybody who has lived life on this planet can relate to at least something in these books. So Tammy, I have to go to you first.
Okay.
You are an accountant by trade, right?
Right.
Okay, a numbers girl.
The numbers girl.
Okay. You operate from both sides of your brain now, because the creative side of your brain, of course, is what put together Walking Old Roads with these great stories in here. But the other side of your brain is, of course, analytical and numbers oriented. How did you manage to get the two of them to talk to one another to come up with such a great book?
I'm not really sure. But
Great answer.
I've always kind of worked from both sides, really, because even when I was an accountant, I enjoyed interior decorating. In fact, I took a correspondence course on interior decorating several years ago, and my husband and I have drawn up house plans and built houses, and so I've always had that little creative side that was in there. So I think maybe I just had them switch places in which was going to be the priority. Because I still use the analytical stuff. I have a spreadsheet with all of my book things in it.
I'm sure you do. And you know what really impresses me? Not only can you write, not only can you design architecture, not only can you interior decorate, but you also cook. There's some really good recipes in here for sweet stuff that is apparently one of your fortes as well. Yes?
Oh, I have quite the sweet tooth. Yes.
Mark's laughing. I think he's relating to that statement. Yes.
Well, yeah, the sweet tooth and the interior decorating, because that's what Anne, my wife, does.
Oh,
awesome.
That's fun. That's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. But and Mark, so you have a lot of you're a business owner, you're in business all day. You use both sides of your brains too. I mean, I do as well, because we run businesses, and yet at the same time we get a chance to be creative. When did you start writing, Mark? And what caused you to begin this process?
Well, I think I've probably been writing one way or the other most of my life. Sorry, I don't mean to be morbid about this. My mom passed away in January. She was almost 95, but she never believed that I was a writer because she read to me when I was so young. And, you know, I remember getting to kindergarten and first grade and being absolutely astounded that kids couldn't read and write. But it was because of my mom. And this cracked me up. You said that that Tammy impresses you. She actually depresses me. Because I didn't go to school, as you probably know. I didn't go to school till I was 28. So I decided I was going to be an English major. And then I found out that Trinity College had 2 tracks for their English majors. One was literature and the other one was writing. And at the same time, I had landed a freelance writing gig with what was then the Aetna Institute for Corporate Education. And my boss had a PhD in theoretical linguistics from Georgetown. So I thought, okay, I'm going to learn all I need to know about writing from this dude, and I can study literature at Trinity. Tammy studied accounting and writes circles around me. That's like,
I don't think I would agree with that.
Well, thank you. Anyway, Teresa, my inclination has always been to be writing, and I tell Anne all the time, I can't not write. Right. I need to be doing it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Actually, I said to somebody once, I write to get myself off my chest.
Well, you know, I mean, that's a good point, Mark. That's a good point, because, you know, I write every morning, I journal every morning, and I have to do that because it gets whatever's in my mind running around in my head and affecting every other part of my life out of me and onto the page. So, you know, you get things off your chest, you get things out of your head when you sit down and you write. Whether I believe in writing, like in my journal with a pen in hand and whatnot, that seems to be most effective for me. The keyboard, not so much, but I get the most healing from my writing and feeling good about myself, feeling like I've said what I had to say or whatever, when I have the pen in hand and writing on the page. How do you write, Tammy? Is it on the keyboard or is it on the pen and paper?
It's mostly on a keyboard. I do have a journal that I have sitting around that if I have some idea pop in my head, I can just jot it down real quick. But the actual writing is on the computer. And it can be very therapeutic. Yeah, actually, because I my dad died shortly before I retired from accounting, and I was in the room. I was the only one in the room with him at the time, so I watched it, and it was not the most pleasant experience. So I cried myself to sleep every night almost for a year. And then I finally wrote a story about it, didn't publish it anywhere, but I just wrote it. And then I was able to sleep.
There you go. So there's something to be said for actually physically writing this story. What about you, Mark? How do you usually write? Is it usually on the keyboard, or are you pen in hand kind of guy?
Oh, it's on the keyboard, and I probably could write with pen or pencil or something, but I can't even read my own handwriting. It's so bad. So sometimes in, business conversations, I'll jot some notes down or something, and then I'll go back and look at them. I have no idea what it says. So, yeah, I mostly write on the keyboard, and I think I can't remember honestly, but I think there's a story in the book called Eddie's Broken Tales.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, and so one of the things I said in there is that I need to write in the morning to even know how I am. I don't have any idea how I am or how the day's going to go or even how I feel, and how I'm the clarity of my thinking until I've written something. So, some days I'll write something, I know it's going to be a good day, and some days I write something and I know I better go back to bed, which obviously I can't do all the time, but I'd love to.
Tammy, what's your favorite time of the day to write? Do you have one, or you just write as you're inspired to do so?
I've always been a morning person, so I'm most effective at whatever I'm doing first thing in the morning.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think I may have shared somewhere along the line the fact that in his book, A Movable Feast, Ernest Hemingway was talking about his time in Paris as a young man, and he would go to one particular room that was in a building separate from where he lived, and he would go there every morning to write. And if he felt stuck or something, he said he would make it his job to write one true sentence, write the truest sentence that he knew. And sometimes just, I guess, for the pure exercise, I'll come to my desk with just a cup of coffee before breakfast or anything else and just write something. I don't even know what it's going to be, but if it starts with a sentence, I can usually think of another one to follow it. And then it just kind of goes from there.
Yeah.
I take my coffee to my desk in the morning and I sit with my journal and I write first thing in the morning. That's what I do as well. It just seems to be, things are fresh in my mind. They're fresh in my heart. They're fresh, they're just fresh. And so, as you say, you write one sentence and then the next one comes. The next one comes. So Tammy, a lot of these stories, most of these stories in Walking Old Roads are, you say it's a memoir of kindness rediscovered. And these stories are about your upbringing, your family. Of all the stories that are in here, which one, is there one that you can call your favorite story?
Oh, that's tough. I'm not sure that I really have one that's a favorite exactly, but I like, and it's not even really much of a story, but I like the part of a story that's about when I was first born and brought home from the hospital, and my brother petted my head in the car like I was a pet. And he's 3 years older than me. And then I was looking through my baby book is how the whole story came about. I was at the table with Mom looking through the baby book, and I was laughing at something, and she's like, "What is so funny?" And I said, "Well, my dad is mentioned as a visitor who came to see me when I was in the hospital, and I kind of thought he was more of a direct participant in my life." And we were kind of laughing about it. And and she didn't think it was so funny because he had drove him nuts that day. And she told him that if they had another child, she wasn't going to let him within 50 miles of the hospital. And so we're laughing and something drops out of the book. And it's a card that somebody had sent. It's the only one that was saved. And inside the card, it was from, let me see if it's from my grandpa's cousin's wife. And I opened it up and there was a handwritten letter inside it that she wrote to the whole family. And she was just recounting their day when she was writing it, telling us about what she and her daughter had been doing. And she ended it with something like, with love to you all four from us three. And that was to everybody, but the card itself had a little message that was just for me. And it said, "Welcome to the circle, Tammy."
Mm.
And that's where, and you'll see a picture of the card in the book. That's awesome. Yeah, that's wonderful. Mark, what's your favorite? I'm going to tell you, wait, let me go back to Tammy for a second here. I looked through here and I said, which ones are my favorites? And I tagged them. them. The one called Treasures Buried in Time and Boxes.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that really got to me was you right here, and there's a picture of some papers that came out, clippings that came out of newspapers. I'm not 100% sure if this was my first literary piece for public consumption or not. A few boxes of photographs and newspaper clippings still wait the explorative touch of Mom and me. We may yet discover more treasures to predate the Halloween-inspired poetic work of art. Time will tell, unless the sands of time run out before we can retrieve the remnants of my heritage from the forgotten caverns buried by the necessities of life. That's just like,
you know what that is? That's writing.
yeah.
That is just such amazing writing. And I
you.
know you were about to ask me a question, Teresa, but I want to share something with Tammy, because Tammy gave me the honor of reading her book when it was in manuscript form. At the end of one of the pieces in my book, it's Chapman Beach Part 2, I think, I wrote, "Love does indeed go on. Life does indeed go on. Sorry. The threads of mine are unbreakable." Tammy, reading your book just felt like that unbreakable thread, and everything was just utterly connected. And the way you phrase things, like what Teresa just read, wow. And so, when I say that's writing, I say that with sincere reverence. That's just beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's why, we talk about the different sides of the brain. It's like, it amazes me that my sister is an accountant. She doesn't have that creative piece. She lives in one side of her brain, always analytical, always trying to figure out, and it rolls over into every part of her life. And so I don't think that someone who stays just in that one side of their head, so to speak, can experience the richness of relationships, the richness of the experience of writing, the richness of being creative and whatnot. So I'm just glad that you put the calculator away and took the keyboard out.
The calculator's sitting right here. Here beside me.
I suspect Tammy's never very far from an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And if there's not one for her to look at, she's going to create one, right?
I can create one, yes.
Mark, we have a few minutes before we have to go to break. Which one of the stories in your book, Random Thoughts, is a writer's notebook, is one that you want to bring light to right now? What's one of your favorites?
I will tell you that on occasion, I've read My Summer with Chucky to people. I can't get through that story without getting emotional.
Yeah.
because it was just such an amazing thing. And I will never, ever forget that kid's face and the way it just lit up, like the whole world changed. Maybe this is silly, I don't know, but I also like, I found all the polite people, because that was deliberately humorous, although every one of those stories was true, except the part about skidding into the parking lot and making the old boy spit out his crawler and his dentures. That part didn't actually happen, but all of the rest of it is true.
Yeah.
Including the part about the young lady in the window saying to Eddie, "Oh my God, you're so cute."
There's every single one of these stories has a bit of humor, a bit of something that you can relate to. Both of you. I put a tab on Everybody's Got a Story, kid.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was quite the experience. And Ed, the gentleman I write about in there, was just quite the man. It's so funny. He actually had real reverence for people who were nowhere near as fortunate as he was. But, bums and homeless people, he would call balkies. I've never heard anybody else use that term before.
Balkies.
My younger son, Quinn, got married in 2015, and Ed was really, really failing at that point. So they brought him to the church for the wedding ceremony, but he didn't come to the reception. And when I went over to say hello to him, the first thing he said to me was, "Hey kid, remember the balkies?" And I was like, man, how could I ever forget? I'll never forget. And could I tell you one other quick story about him?
Yes, absolutely.
So we're in the parking lot one night, and he smoked a cigar. I know I said that in there. So we're standing there talking, and he's smoking cigars. Some guy comes reeling off of a silent street, just stone drunk. And he says, "Hey, anybody got a cigarette?" And Ed says, "Well, nah, nobody around here smokes. Get lost." So the guy laughs. And then Ed turns to me and he goes, "I'm telling you, kid, it's just so crazy." I said, "What? What's so crazy?" He said, "You know that guy I just chased out of here?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "When I came back from Korea, my buddy gave me a job tending bar. I was 18 years old. And what do people tell you your whole life? Don't drink, don't smoke, it'll kill you." He said, "When I was 18 tending bar, that guy was in the bar. And he was drinking and smoking then, and the son of a bitch looks better than I do." That was him.
Yeah.
What a man.
I hate that we have to go to a break, but we'll go to a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes with Mark O'Brien and Tammy Hayter to talk more about their books.
With the hustle and bustle of today's world, how often do you take time to practice gratitude? More importantly, how can you make it a habit? The Grateful Hearts community is a group of like-minded people focusing on what's going right and being grateful. Gratitude is more than putting a smile on your face and being thankful for the roof over your head. It's about expanding your perception and finding ways to find gratitude for, in, and through the challenges we face every day. Gratitude is a feeling of connection to things higher than yourself, to God, and to others. We focus on light, positivity, and connections. You make a difference. When we join our grateful hearts together, the power of community attracts more people and even more to be grateful for. Expressing gratitude and feeling grateful is infectious, so let's share it. Join our Grateful Hearts community and watch your blessings blossom. Learn more at gratefulheartscommunity.com and join the community at facebook.com/The Grateful Hearts Community.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
This is Dreamvision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back with Mark O'Brien and Tammy Hayter. And I want to just say a word about a daily gift of gratitude. We started off with a Grateful Hearts community. And this book brings together 100 authors to share something, a little tidbit on gratitude, a short story. And each of you has contributed something to this. The next one is a daily gift of hope. And there are contributions from the both of you going in that one as well. If you don't have your copy of a daily gift of gratitude, just go to Amazon, you'll find it there, and you'll find more about how you can become part of the next book on a dailygiftbookseries.com. So welcome back, everybody. And I have to ask, how long, I know, Mark, you're working on a second rendition of Random Thoughts.
Mhm.
When you put this one together, what inspired you to put this whole thing together like this?
One of my daughters-in-law created an account for me one Christmas at a place called Storyworth.
Mhm.
And the deal with that is every week for a full year, they will send you a prompt. And when I first started getting the prompts, they weren't anything that I really wanted to write about. I thought they were just kind of mundane, but I really liked the idea of having to write something every week. So that's what I did. And then at the end of the year, you have the opportunity to get a hardcover copy of all of the things that you've submitted to Storyworth for the year.
Mhm.
That was the good news. The bad news was that those books cost $97 a pop.
Oh my goodness.
So I thought, well, if I were, I wouldn't buy a $97 book written by me. Let me put it that way. So I thought, maybe I better find a plan B, and that's where you came in, Teresa.
Yeah. And it was one of the best plan Bs you ever had, right?
Well, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that it's out there.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It was the best plan B you ever had because it got your stories out there. And just so that the listeners know, these stories, maybe one of them is 2 pages, a couple are a little bit more than that, some are a little bit longer. These are things that, just like the Daily Gift of Gratitude, it's just 1 page per entry into the book. These are things that you can sit down and read in a couple of minutes, a few minutes a day, and you walk away with a smile on your face when you read each one of them. And Tammy's the same thing. She did the same thing with the stories. You didn't do what Mark did with this, but having the prompt to write everything. Did you have to? I guess the question is that I want to ask you, was it easy for you to sit down and write these, or did you really have to work at it?
It really wasn't too bad. It usually started from a conversation that Mom and I had, or a photograph we found, or some piece of memorabilia that we found. So I had something very tangible to start with. The only thing that makes it hard for me to write is that I have to be in a very quiet place.
Mm-hmm.
Amen to that.
Really concentrate. And I mean, I could do accounting work in the middle of a parade and be able to concentrate and do it. But writing, no, it's got to be very quiet. I've got to get in that zone. And once I'm in the zone, it flows pretty well. And I'm also not afraid to, if I start writing about something, and once I get going, that story might change completely.
Yeah.
And it might be about something that I didn't even know it was going to be about. And I just let it be that.
Yeah.
And Teresa, I thought it was interesting when you read the passage from Tammy's book, you said, that's like music.
Yeah.
And like Tammy, I have to be in absolute quiet when I'm writing because what I hear, I can only liken to music. There's something about the rhythm of it. And there's
Yes.
something about the way the words fit together almost like notes that I can't hear if I'm not in absolute quiet. And I love music,
Yeah, I know.
but I can't even have music playing when I'm writing.
I hear you on that point there, Mark, because there was somebody that that was an old coach of mine used to say that turn some music on while you're writing. And I'm like, no, not for me. I need to be like the two of you are saying, I need to be in the quiet. I need to be with me and my thoughts and whatever it is that's coming out onto the page or whatever, without interference and without any kind of, what's the word I want to use? Impression from something from the outside. It's got to come from within for me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I used to read books that way when I was a kid. I could just tune out the world if I was reading a book, because I just got so involved in it. I just immersed in it. It was almost like a symbiotic relationship between my brain and the book. And I find that when I write the best is when I can get that kind of connection going.
Yeah.
And you can feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some times when I get either ideas for something to write, or if I'm writing something and I suddenly get an idea about where it's going to go or what's going to happen, I actually get butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah.
It's visceral. You can just feel it. And
Yeah.
that's it. You got it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Butterflies in your stomach. I get chills up my spine and go into my arms. That's when I know I'm on the right path. Yeah.
I should
Is there
try that.
anything that you get, Tammy, when you know you're on the right track?
I just get the gut feeling that that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a physical thing as well as a mental thing and an emotional thing. All of I believe that all of your senses come to the table, if you will, when you sit down to write. I believe that that's true. I mean, memories. You wrote something, Tammy, called "A Resurrection of a Sweet Memory."
Yeah.
And there's a really cool recipe in here that kind of got revamped according to the story. You have to read the story in order to be able to see how this happened. But when you told me that you had made this recipe, and I'll let you share what it is, on Memorial Day, because it is a tradition. I had the book and I was reading the ingredients, and I could actually smell this thing baking in your kitchen.
Yeah.
What is
it? It's peach cobbler.
Yeah.
And it's as close to my grandma Maggie's recipe as I could get, because she didn't actually have a recipe written down to give me. It was just all in her head.
Yeah.
And we didn't think to get that out of her head before she started having some senility. So it was lost until I could find one. And it's amazing how many bad cobblers there are out there.
It's amazing.
I have to say that I think Tammy's book probably took more discipline than mine, because of the length of it and because it's all a unified thing. And I tell people, and they think I'm joking, that I have a head full of disjointed nonsense, which is why my book is the way it is. But I think if I could muster the discipline, I would like to write a book. I guess it might be a memoir. I don't know, but I would like to write a book about my mother, and particularly the 10 years in which she was declining from dementia. And it's well, first of all, it's also new that I feel like I need to think about it for a while. But there are also some things that occurred within that 10-year period in which she was actually taken horrible advantage of by some people who were not immediate members of our family, like taking her to an attorney, trying to get her will changed, all kinds of just horrific junk. And I was thinking, if I write this book, it can't all be like dire and horrific. And from a distance, some of the things that happened were completely absurd. And with enough detachment, there's actually some humor in that. So I was thinking, well, what in the world would I even call this thing? And before we moved to where we are now, the house where we lived faced a state road. And there was, to the right, about a quarter of a mile up the street, there was a Dunkin' Donuts. And I was sitting in the room that was my office, and I'm looking out the window. And I see this guy walk by, and he's got a cup of coffee from Dunkin' Donuts in his left hand, and he's got from 7-Eleven in his left hand, and he's got a bag from 7-Eleven in his right hand, but he's holding the bag at head level, and he was apparently talking to it. So I thought talking to a bag of donuts would be a perfect title for the book, because that doesn't make any more or less sense than some of the stuff that happened to my mother when she was unable to process things. So if I acquire the discipline that you already have, Tammy, I may do that.
I think you should do that. That sounds great. I'd read it.
I'd read it too. And you know what's funny that you say bag of donuts? There's some people in my family now. Remember, I have Italian heritage on one side, I have German and Austrian on the other side. And on the Italian side, somebody in my family, I can't even remember who it was, but as soon as you said bag of donuts, I heard Joey Bag of Donuts.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And I may have shared this with you, Teresa. My wife's family is Italian. And we just call, that extended side of the family and we just call them the crazy Italians. Yeah. And whenever we watch the comedian Sebastian Maniscalco, when she's not laughing, which she is almost all the time, she always says, "Yep, that's exactly the way it was. Yep, that's it." Yeah. And it's to me, it's quite a beautiful thing. Yeah. Because they're all so close. Yeah. And when they're together, they're so much happier. Yeah. Than I was in my stoic Irish household as a kid. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different characteristics that come with each specific heritage, and they and the whole thing. We're all like a bunch of what's the thing. Well, let's, for lack of a better phrase, let's say a mixed bag of donuts. Yeah, we are. And I think depending on, the people that we spend time with, to one extent or another, we all become sort of mutts because, we kind of adopt traits from the other people. The first time the crazy Italians ever came to my house, in Westbrook, before Ann and I got married, I had gone upstairs for something. They were all in the dining room. And about halfway down the stairs, I just stopped because the whole house was full of conversation and laughter. And it was just so warming and soothing. And I came downstairs and I said, you know what, you people are all going to think I'm crazy, but God, this is just so wonderful. And this is what I missed. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm grateful for them all the time. Yeah. Yeah. And family is, regardless how crazy they are, family is family. And you always take away some memory of something good, something fun
from family experiences. Tammy, you took a lot of things. I mean, the conversation I don't remember the name of the story, but it's the one where your mom's at the door calling you in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. My house. My mother would get to the front door and call us each by name. Teresa, Mary Louise, screaming the names of the street. And all my father did was he whistled. That was it. And we heard that whistle. It was time to go home for dinner. You too, Mark?
Absolutely. And when we heard that whistle, you did not hesitate.
Exactly.
And I did this exactly one time, and I never did it again because I paid a heavy price for it. I said, when my father yelled actually, "What do you want?" So when I got home, let's just say that he took care of me. And then he said, "If I wanted to have a conversation with you, I'll come find you." So the whistle was like instant.
Yeah. That was, you get when you hear that whistle, you get your tail home unless you pay the price.
Yep.
So, exactly. But we have to go to the next commercial. I can't believe this hour is going by so fast. We'll have a break for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll be back to talk more with Tammy Hayter and Mark Nelson O'Brien.
In order to be healthy and happy, there are 24 areas of your life to balance. With the All Things Wellness Wheel, you become self-empowered, allowing you to make healthier decisions about relationships, nutrition, sleep, exercise, stress, and even your value system. The All Things Wellness book series, written by Peggy Wilms and Dr. Marcus Wettstein, teaches you how to balance your wellness wheel in addition to sharing true stories from multiple contributing authors. Book 1, The Fourfold Formula, and Book 2, Win the Wellness War, We Are Responsible, are now available on Amazon. Reserve your spot now to become a published author in Book 3, Wellness GPS, Get Prepared for Success. Visit www.allthingswellness.com/authors for more information.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Cannabis. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
This is Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Welcome back to the last segment of Conversations That Make a Difference. You know, Mark, I was looking at your book, and there's a title that catches my eye among many. One of them is called "Blessed with Challenges." Yeah, and I love how you said this. In 2004, a priest who presided over the high school graduation of my son Quinn said this, acknowledging the myriad difficulties of the age in which the accidents of our births find us in existence. We are blessed with challenges. My first reaction was something along the lines of, whoa, sounds like the Padre's gone off his meds. Even after giving what he'd said considerable thought, it took me a while to catch the drift. But I finally made sense of it by posing a question to myself. Would you rather be challenged or bored? After that, everything fell into place and stayed there. Explain, Lucy.
Well, I remember exactly where we were. We were in St. Patrick's Cathedral on a cathedral in Hartford. And I remember sitting there and I remember hearing him say that. And I remember thinking, what in the world is he talking about? Mm-hmm. And I came to figure out that even then I probably wasn't old enough, I guess, to fully appreciate what he was saying. But I would also say I've come to recognize that the only way we can grow and learn is to be challenged. Mm-hmm. And to avoid challenge or to back away from challenge is to, in effect, say, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to be just the way I am. I don't really need to learn much more. I mean, once I figured that part out, I knew he was exactly right. And I don't want you to think that I run around, looking for challenges or putting myself in harm's way or something. But yeah, and you know what? I also ended up extending that to my business, because there's a book called The E-Myth Revisited, mm-hmm. Which I was almost forced to read by somebody and had no interest in it, because I thought E stood for electronic. And, at the dawn of the internet and everything, I was thinking, no. I just don't need to read another anything about e-commerce. Yeah. Well, E stands for entrepreneur. And the guy who wrote the book contends that he knows it's a simplification. There are only two kinds of people in the world: entrepreneurs and tacticians. And he said, counterintuitively, most businesses are started by tacticians who have what he calls the entrepreneurial convulsion. So they're sitting there one day and they think, well, I could do that, or I could do that better. And so they start a business. Mm-hmm. I recognized when I was reading that book, that's what I did, because I wanted creative challenges that I wasn't getting at the ad agency where I worked. But Michael Gerber goes on to say in the book, so what happens to those tacticians is that they end up creating new places in which to work rather than creating businesses on which to work. And when I read that, all the lights went on. And what I recognized was the bigger creative challenge, rather than, writing content and writing clever ads and all that stuff, was the problem solving. And that's the part of my business that I really fell in love with. And I'm not sure I would have figured that out either if I hadn't heard the priest say that.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and to the priest thing, I grew up in Catholicism, and there actually were priests in my house on the regular, because my grandmother and my aunt, who lived one next door and one around the block, were best friends with the pastor who started the church. So they were in and out of my house all the time. So, mm-hmm. And they came up with a lot of interesting things. I can promise you that. But one of the things that I can say is, if you want to go to the Bible for that, it says, count it all joy, everything. Our challenges, our hopes, our dreams, our mistakes, everything, count it all joy, because in the end, really, that's the basis for everything. It all comes from the inside. So, and speaking of joy, I found a lot of interesting stuff in your nostalgia holiday style, Tammy. a lot of good stuff. So I like what you wrote about the 4th of July. Now I have to find it. Oh yeah, here we go. My memory of the 4th of July involves no reflection on the battle for independence. I launched coffee tins and vegetable cans to new heights in the driveway during the day and danced around in the front yard with sparklers at dusk. Packages of firecrackers dumped into a large tin rested a safe distance away from the blasting area. I tied 2, 3, or more firecracker wicks together and performed undocumented experiments in explosive reactions while testing my light the fuse and run reflexes.
Wow.
The point of diminishing returns occurred when the collection of too many wicks preventing a synchronized force to propel the can to greater heights. I'm thinking of I'm trying to picture you as a kid in the driveway or out in the street trying to figure out how to do this without getting literally burned or losing a finger somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I did have a big brother to help me with that too.
He taught you everything he knew about firecrackers and.
Well, interestingly enough, he ended up working in a fire department and became a paramedic. So yeah, he kind of did know a little something about fire. He started a fire once with firecrackers, but that would be in a different book.
Of which I hope that's going to come soon. I understand you have a couple of things on the horizon that you're working on. Yes.
Yeah, I've started a second book that kind of takes up where this one left off. So high school, college, that kind of thing.
Tammy, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what it is that you said at the beginning of the book. You were afraid you were losing, but something along the lines of goodwill or something.
Benevolence.
There you go. So given what you just said about the fact that you're going to write a continuation of that, do you feel like you've recovered your benevolence?
I think I've got a handle on it. I think it's never something that I'm just going to have. I think it's going to be a roller coaster ride of being kinder and then sliding back and then working to be kinder again. It's a process.
I wonder if all of us don't struggle with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a generational thing. I think every generation, especially as it ages, thinks something like, the world is going to hell. And it's probably not the entire world that's going to hell. It's probably just the world we knew.
Yeah.
And the world we were comfortable in. So, sometimes, sometimes I feel like I have to keep a handle on my tendencies to want to judge things, especially if they're just different from what I knew or from what I expected. And I also think increasingly one of my chief responsibilities is to not become a curmudgeon, because I can just kind of see that happening to me. My younger brother, Keith, who I think I wrote about twice in the book.
Yes.
He said that when he's ready to retire, he just wants to go off somewhere and live like Ted Kaczynski, who just passed away, in case you missed that, and a cabin somewhere by himself. And he says, and the bombs are optional.
So Tammy, when you find the cabin in the woods, the firecrackers are optional, girl.
Yeah. I don't run that fast anymore. So,
considering the fact that this is being recorded, I don't know if I should share this, but when we were growing up, there was a guy 2 doors down from us that we just decided we didn't like. It's because we were spiteful kids, as only kids can be. So my brother and I took an M80 and we put a cigarette on the end of the fuse so it would take longer to burn.
Oh, that's smart.
And we put it inside this guy's storm door. His door was closed, and we put it inside the aluminum storm door. Then we went home said goodnight to my father, and went to bed. So we're lying in bed, and we hear the explosion, and we hear the shards of this poor guy's door hitting the street, and then we hear him walking up the sidewalk, and then boom, 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 he's pounding on the door. So my father's name was Ned. My father comes to the door. The guy's name was Bill. He goes, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?" And Bill says, "God damn it, Ned, your boys just blew my door off." And my father's like, "No, Bill, they've been in bed for quite a while." So we got away with it. But years later, and I mean many years later, we shared that with my dad, and he actually laughed.
So is the answer to the title to the next book called Random Thoughts, all the stuff I got away with?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, if that were the case, it would be a much, much longer book.
Longer book. There you go.
I got away with absolute murder, and I thank God every day that, as far as I know, with the one exception that's in the book, my sons didn't pull half of the stuff that I did. Thank God for that.
Well, I was one of 4, and I have stories. You know, the two of you have inspired me to go take a look back. As time is going on, and I'm sure, you have the same thing. We have 2 minutes left, guys. You have the same thing going on in your life. Relatives are moving on to whatever comes after this life. And, you go into a place of reminiscence that you don't go to often. And there's so much good in all the things that we remember. I lived close to the beach growing up. The family used to come to our house on the weekends because we were close to the beach, and we had a nice sized property where we could play baseball and whatever. And those memories are so rich. And I want to thank both of you for sharing them, because I think the world needs the happiness that we grew up with, that the children today and the youth today do not have. I mean, they don't know what it's like to play hopscotch in the street for the most part. They've got their faces in their devices, and they're on the internet all the time, 24/7. So the richness of what life was as we were growing up, I know very few people. One comes to mind who is homeschooling her children, letting them, they don't have devices. They play outside in the yard. They do imaginative play with toys that they have, little things that they have. And they are wholesome. They're a wholesome family. I think the world needs a lot more of that. And I think that you're writing about your own lives. And I'm committing to putting some things down on paper myself. I think that it brings the heart back into the world today. I really do. Would you agree?
I certainly hope you're right. And
I do too.
I think Tammy will join me in thanking you for giving us the opportunity to share what we've written.
Thank you so much for being part of my life, and for all the things that you bring to the paper, so that everyone else can be part of your life in some way. They can learn from it, take experiences from it, and hopefully it will enrich their lives as well. Tammy, TammyHater.com, and Mark is your website again?
Well, my business website is o'briencg.com, but if people put in Mark Nelson O'Brien in Facebook, I have a page there too for my written work.
Perfect. Get in touch with these two people. They're the real deal, and I love them both. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of Conversations That Make a Difference. You've enriched my life. May all the conversations you have make a difference in the lives of others. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 radio network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our producer Rachel and to our station owner Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.